Hi guys, it is Friday. It is 8 o'clock p.m. UK. A very warm welcome to the Jinn&Tonic show. Even though it is Happy Crucifixion Day, and in a few days we're going to have Happy Resurrection Day. It's supposed to be 3 days, but unfortunately somebody made a mistake and it's only 2 days. But let the Christians explain that to you. I am not able to do so. So, Jinn&Tonic show, we talk about Islam, we don't talk about Christianity, but you can't ignore them because there's so many things in Islam which are taken from Zikr or from the Christianity. So this is part of it. There's a lot of things that are taken from Judaism. So sometimes I actually call Islam Judaism 2.2.0, even though it should be 3.0 by now if they would adjust to the 21st century, but they don't. So, Jinn&Tonic show, we have always been about bringing facts, okay? So what we do is try and bring reality into the whole picture. And I'm trying to stay away from hadith, and by now I'm actually propagating to stay away from the Quran. People know the Quran, and for those who don't know, we are going through it word by word, but in arguments, I'm trying to stay away from it. Here, we are going through it word for word, sentence for sentence. And if Allah does not reward me, welcome, guys. It's good to see that there are some people watching and listening. And that's it. So as you can hear, I'm starting the show because Rob is just here for a couple of seconds. He's going to have to move away because we have a country which is still running on Christian holidays. I'm quite surprised that a lot of European countries still have this, and they are celebrating this. And when Notre Dame now was damaged in Paris, I was sure that the Catholic Church would jump in and, just casually drop 2 billion or something and reconstruct it. No, taxpayers have to do that. So this is quite strange. So we're still running on this, and it's the French government, it's the Department of Culture or something, who is the actual owner of Notre Dame, and the Catholic Church is allowed to use it free of charge. It's like the Catholic Church requires donations left, right, and center. And for me, in my eyes, as far as I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's the richest company in the world. But they still require donations by taxpayers. So we're here to bring you reality, and we're here to bring you the arguments from reality regarding Islam. So we don't really go against Muslims. We try and differentiate between Islam, the set of ideas, and the people, because the people normally are the ones who are brainwashed and are indoctrinated. So I don't really blame a Muslim for being a Muslim and for propagating some weird ideas. But what I do, however, is I expose those who willfully lie, who will willfully deceive others, and those who are willfully ignorant, because we're in the 21st century and I don't think we need to be. So we try and educate those who don't. Okay, not everybody has had a scientific education, so people don't know everything about science. Nobody knows everything about science. So you should know the basics though, to talk about it. Before I talked about Islam, I went and studied it. I read, I asked, I questioned, I did all sorts of things before I even opened my mouth about Islam. But it seems that when it comes to atheists, a Muslim who has no idea, who has no clue about what a person is without a God belief, and they will tell you all sorts of weird and wonderful things which are simply not true. So this is what we're trying to avoid, okay? So we address Islam, we critique, we use reality, we use rationality, we use logics, we use as much as possible facts, and we condemn any abuse, oppression, be it of people, be it of females, be it of everything. We categorically condemn slavery and violence. And what we do is we embrace free speech to as much as possible. There are so many differences in free speech, but I think the minimum is that you're allowed to say anything as long as you don't interfere with the lives of others, okay? And interfering means physically and in an abusive way. So if you go and you tell somebody, listen, I want you to kill so-and-so or beat him or give him a hiding or give him a slap or something, okay, I maintain that everybody should be able to take the responsibility to not do it. Other people say, no, that's where the borderline is. Okay, we can discuss this. These are things that we can go and agree on or disagree on. It doesn't really matter.
I actually had a 2-hour discussion on this today with a couple of atheists, as it happened, who were for limited speech, interestingly enough. So I wasn't a theist. And along exactly those lines. In principle, you should be able to say anything, right? Because unless you were an automaton or somebody was hypnotized or couldn't do otherwise, they are responsible for these actions. So people who would be influenced, they are choosing to be influenced, right? And they take responsibility, right? But in practice, probably similar to you, I would be for, direct incitement to violence, but the bar still has to be pushed very far, right? Just calling for one person's injury or violence to somebody isn't enough in and of itself. People do this all the time, right? So the bar would have to be, in my view anyway, pushed much further than just that.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly the point. This is why here we do propagate free speech as much as possible. I don't see a problem with swearing. I actually try not to, but it does sometimes happen because I don't have a filter built in. It doesn't really serve any purpose. But the thing is, I don't have a list of words of the English language in my mind, which I'm not allowed to use. I think that's a bit ridiculous. So, yeah, okay. All right, but that's not the issue at the moment. We are talking about Islam. We're talking about the Qur'an. We're talking about the Hadith. And we always start off by quoting something good that I have been able to find in the Hadith, because being honest, being open, and being, most of all, it's about authenticity. It's about integrity. It's about being ethical. And if I want to be authentic, then I need to be able to acknowledge that there are good parts in Islam. And that's what we do. So we're not shy to say, yes, there are good parts in Islam. So in Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 4, number 149, narrated by Aisha, it says that the Prophet said to his wives, "You are allowed to go out and answer the call of nature." That's it.
As opposed to what else? What else would you do? Stay inside and not be allowed to?
Yes, because some people say that a woman, a wife, is not allowed to leave the house at all. So I'm saying...
right, it's in response to that, okay.
So it's in response to that where I'm saying, no, not so. There are examples where a woman is allowed to leave the house, and that is where Aisha says the Prophet said, you are allowed to go out and answer the call of nature. So this is one. I'm actually being sarcastic here, okay? Because it shouldn't. I mean, how can any man?
Well, hang on a moment. It's supposed to be something nice.
Are allowed to go and use the toilet?
Well, presumably they didn't have an indoor toilet, so they weren't advanced enough to have toilets in their homes, right? So they had to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. So they were allowed to go out, but only if it meant going to the toilet. So I'm being a bit facetious here. So,
I suppose that's better than being kept in all the time and having to do something in the house. That would be rather unhygienic, right?
Yes, of course.
So we're trying to find something good. So it's better than being forced to stay in the house 24 hours a day.
So there you go. Oh, and Sean, does free speech include lying? Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
So there's no question about this.
Yeah.
But if I go to one level down, the wives of the Prophet used to go to a vast open place to answer the call of nature. Now, this is something. This is why you have the Jinn&Tonic show. Okay, I'm just pointing this out, because if you go to other places, they will just leave you hanging there, and they will just say, "Okay, that's it." But here, because we are the Jinn&Tonic show, we're going to give you something a little bit extra. This is for free, okay? You don't need to pay for this, and you're getting this information, this education for free, so that you know if you come to an argument. Because if you go just one sentence before that, it says, the wives of the Prophet used to go to a vast open place to answer the call of nature at night. And Umar said to the Prophet, "Let your wives be veiled." But Allah's apostle did not do so. And one night, Sauda, the wife of the Prophet, went out at Isha time, and she was a tall lady. And Umar addressed her and said, "I have recognized you, O Sauda." And he said so, as he desired eagerly that the verses of al-hijab, the observing of the veils by the Muslim woman, may be revealed. And because Umar wanted this, Allah revealed the verses of al-hijab, the complete body cover, excluding the face and the eyes. There you go. So in the hadiths themselves, it says that the Quran is not complete, that there are sentences, that there are entire topics missing from the Quran, like al-hijab is missing. So maybe this was a complete chapter called al-hijab, which today is missing. And that is why we have this, how do you say, dear Makar, this total mishmash of coverings. Sorry?
Yeah, confusion or...
Well, you have this huge mixture where the veiling or the covering of the women today is cultural. There is no single shape, form, style, fashion, or whatever you want to call it, that would resemble the others. So on the one hand, it says, well, you need to cover your aura, and your aura is defined differently in different madhabs. The aura is defined differently in different regions on the planet. And so different areas of the body need to be covered. So they normally say, well, it's anything from below the knees and to the neck. But then this does not correspond with what you see, because the neck is the one thing that needs to be covered all the time, because the neck seems to be highly erotic. That's why you see always the hair and the neck being covered. And this is the way that it works. And then you have the abaya, you have the chador, you have the niqab, you have the burqa. So you have the different fashion shows here, all giving you a different aspect. And it seems that the instruction in the Quran is missing. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I had one, what you would call it, crazy comment.
Oh, there was some on that video. If we could bring that video up, right?
Which video is that?
That was the one with, I'm just trying to think who it was with. Who was it? And I said to you, this will have so many crazy comments. Didn't I post you some? What was the video? I think it was
because definitely it's going to be the one with hijab and Eddie. What's his name? Batash.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah.
I sent you this, and I still put a question mark. Should we use this as a crazy comment? And I forgot to put it.
Oh, I didn't see that. Which one was it where I posted you?
Yeah, this is the one that I had. Okay. Because this is from Ali Dawa. He sent a message to this rationalizer sent me this. Ali Dawa said, rationalizer, did you receive what I sent you? And the rationalizer answers, no, where did you send it? And Ali Dawa says, I sent you a bunch of nothing. How could you not receive it? The same nothing, the whole universe that came into existence.
He's just such an uneducated cretin. How anybody could take him seriously is beyond me. That just shows the level of the people who follow this guy. Simple minds follow a simple mind, I guess. It's just remarkable, right? It's like
that's why I thought this is why he sent it to me. He says, have you ever seen somebody so stupid?
It is a battle to find somebody else like that, I think. Just so cretinously ridiculous.
Okay,
it's Edward
Tabash. It's Edward Tabash. Thank you. And I'm not a 75 speed today. I'll have what you say. No, actually, I've had two brilliant days because we've been inundated with doves. And I went yesterday and I went crazy and I bought like 20 different things, like windmills and wind games and all sorts of things. And we've got this split level thing. So I have some railings and I have then I put some sticks into the ground and things like that. So I'm surrounded by windmills now, which are going because we had some wind today. So they were, really running and making a noise. And those doves, they come on their normal approach I don't know, pattern. And then as they get close, they are so confused, and off they go. So I've had a whale of a time, and I've got a sunburn, so I'm okay. Yeah.
I've posted you the video where you could read a few crazy comments. It was that Muslim Anwar with the skydive Phil. If you bring that
is amazing.
That up in a separate window and you just read off a few comments there for interest. And while Stops is doing that, for those who don't know,
I've got this open, by the way, because I still intend to do this.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you post a link for people to watch, they can watch the video anyway, but you can read a few comments off there. Again, people can see that you are reading it if they go to the video, because obviously you're not going to screenshot it at the moment. But for those who don't know, obviously Skydive Phil is an atheist that pops down once in a while. He doesn't go very often to Speaker's Corner. He's very well read in cosmology. He understands many of the other arguments as well. And he was in this discussion with Anwar, which will be in this video, right? And they were talking about, do you know what? I've watched the video, but I can't remember specifically, but it eventually got down to probabilities and talking about it. And I think this Anwar character asked, well, can you walk through me, right? Because, all particles are moving and there's sort of, all kinds of probabilities. And Phil said, well, along the lines...
No, it was quantum tunneling. He was trying to explain quantum tunneling, and this Muslim didn't understand it. So he says, okay, then theoretically I could walk through you. And he says, well, theoretically, if you are a particle, then yes, you would. But he doesn't understand that he's talking about particles. And then this guy said, well, then then I can walk right through you, because he didn't understand anything of what Phil was saying.
Yeah. So I think it's again like somebody that's knowledgeable and somebody's completely ignorant. They take entirely the wrong point. They don't ask. They don't want to be educated. And at the end, this Muslim had the cheek to say, hey, brothers, don't give this guy a platform, right? And this is, of course, Speaker's Corner. So again, he was so ignorant that he didn't know who he was speaking to, what was being said, and thought he was talking nonsense because of his ignorance, right? But the comedy gold is in some of these crazy comments. If you got a few of them open, you can read them here about what they say about Phil or how good this other guy was. And it's just mind-bogglingly baffling.
Atheists are bonkers. May Allah guide him. Evidence for what? Naturalism? Lol. You atheists don't know your own theories are based on the philosophical naturalism. Let's assume for a second every scientific theory there is true. Whether they are true or not is another debate. Does any one of them end with a conclusion that there is no God? No, they don't. So even with science, you can't say you disbelieve in God because you have evidence against that claim, because that is a metaphysical claim, and science is the study
oh dear.
of the physical world. You just don't believe in him because you are too arrogant and insecure to admit that you're going to be held accountable for every little wrong that you do. Yeah, like chucking gays off the top of a building. That's
right. In some versions.
So you comfort yourself with this statement. So take all the comfort you want. It ain't going to change what is inherently true. May Allah SWT guide you.
Yeah, so much one could say.
Blah, blah, blah. You guys are like little sheep. What the fuck, lol. I've had... Oh no, this is something else. This is an only gullible, indoctrinated, weak-minded, low IQ person believe there's such a being in existence. Okay, this is actually somebody who is not a Muslim, and I don't agree with the comment. I don't like the style.
Okay, fair enough.
Andre Ramadan, science has no evidence to deny God's existence. Science also don't have evidence for us to see gravity. What's your point?
This is just such nonsense. And they're getting this from a few of the guys down in Speaker's Corner, right? Trying to make this argument or trying to show or get away from science and claiming that science cannot investigate the supernatural. If the supernatural enters or in some way interacts in the natural world, then in principle we can. Sean Carroll made the example, right? If people got up and were resurrected, right? That would be a supernatural claim. That would be outside of what all of physics tells us, right? And the more likely option is that there's some supernatural something going on, or the flood, or whatever it might be, or finding the moon was split in half, right? and somehow magically put together. So that comment is just nonsense. Because of course science is their biggest enemy, right? So if you can somehow sidestep that enemy, then that's a win for them, right? But I'm not going to let them get away with that.
Well, Rob, the main problem of atheists is they think themselves. Okay, let me try again. The main problem of atheists is they think themselves know everything they said. Okay.
Yeah, obviously not his first language, or
we don't believe in God because we can't prove it. What a so pathetic argument. Nobody could see God or make it like Marshall, which science could study. Oh, material probably. If science could study God Almighty is not God anymore, but God Almighty give us a signs of his existence. We, believer, could see through these signs, and that which thing which you don't have, you substance worshipper. God Almighty said in the Quran, indeed in the creation and blah, 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 blah. So the rest is just preaching.
Yeah, it's not very well written, isn't it? It's obviously not his first language. So it's astonishing, right? Some of these comments. They have no clue what's going on there, right? But this guy latched onto something because of, Phil's much higher level thinking on some of these topics. And it's almost like you and I spoke about this, right? It's almost like Phil needs to come down and not engage with anything that these, less educated people will try and hook onto and make it sound like it's ridiculous, right? Because they don't understand quantum tunneling or probability or whatever the case is. It seems like in some cases you've got to keep this so childlikely simple so that they can't misrepresent or get onto a point that's not true, right?
Well, Commander knows everything. He says, apparently it is standard physics that humans can walk through each other. Rob, you need to understand this. How can you, if Phil says, it mentions quantum tunneling, this means that humans can walk through each other. This is what they get. And then if he says, okay, like if you flip a coin, then, okay, because he tried to explain possibility and probability. And the thing that most Muslims really don't understand is if you've got a chance in 1 in 6, like if you're throwing 2 dice, okay, what is the chance of throwing 2 6s? Is one in, I don't know, 12? Or I can't even remember how you. Oh no, let's take 1. It's 1 in 6 that you get a 6, but it doesn't mean that you have to throw 6 times to get a 6. And this is the big fallacy that or misunderstanding that so many people have. It could be that you have the 6 the first time around, and it could be 50 times before you get a 6. Yeah. So the probability does not give you the possibility of this happening. Okay, so this is something that people need to understand, which I don't know, Muslims, they can't conceptualize and they can't understand this. This is why he says the analogy of the coins is flawed because there is someone flipping the coins. For the molecules to arrange, you don't have a process. You do. Secondly,
you do. Yeah.
The probability of coin turning into head has been calculated. But just now he said there's no process. Okay. But the probability of molecules self-arranging neither has been observed. Ignorance of atheists. Okay, yeah. What is so laughable is all these comments. I don't know who trains Muslims at the beginning of a video. Always ask who recites in the beginning. Who is the reciter at the beginning? What nasheed is this? If they have nothing to say, they will ask, who is the nasheed? Who is this? Who is it? Just because they're trying to show something. Yes, I've watched it. Yes, I'm behind you. Who is the reciter? It's crazy. All right.
There we go.
And hang on, let me just check. We left off in chapter 2.
Are you going to share a screen so people can see it?
Number 197, I think it was. So 197. So I need to go to 190. Hang on, I first need to find this again. Copy, open.
Yes, as Stop says while he's doing that, he's hosting tonight. I'll leave before the end of the show because it's Bank Holiday Friday. See, I didn't even remember that, and my lovely wife did remind me, and something is going on that I was only informed about a few hours ago. So Stops and Thunderous will join us hopefully around 9 o'clock. The earlier the better. And then I will leave these two gentlemen to continue on.
Yes, found it, got it, copy.
It'll be
and
heaving
now
in
paste,
Speaker's
and
Corner
then,
this Sunday, right? Because it's going to be very warm weather. We've got it's a bank holiday weekend, as they call it here, meaning that obviously the banks don't open and many shops follow that, etc. And the weather is amazing. So it's good weather here. Well, when I say amazing, sort of 20 to 25 degrees around the country. So everybody will be out. So I'm sure Speaker's Corner will be chocker block on Sunday.
yeah. But it's not like me getting a bloody sunburn on my foreskin, on my forehead.
Yeah, wearing a hat is recommended when there's sun.
Oh no, I can't share. Can you fucking believe it? Because I started this, he did not get me into Google thingamajig. So what kind of a browser am I in? I don't know what browser he used. Oh, bloody hell. And I cannot screen share. That's a bummer. Let me see if I can get it via Minicam.
Oh, that's not ideal. You do have an interesting face coming up there.
Yeah, I had this because I wanted to show somebody. Let's try this one.
All right, so you're just looking for
All right.
way.
Is that something that you can read?
Yes, you've got something up there. It's a little bit smaller. I don't know if there's a way to make it bigger. If not, somebody could just pause it and make it full screen or zoom in a little bit. So at least that's helpful. It's better than not having anything, right?
Let me see if I can do this.
So Stops is just finding a way to make it slightly bigger for everybody, because we do want people to, if possible, be able to see what we're reading, so nobody suggests that we're making stuff up.
Okay, but this only, I don't like it. No, that doesn't change it. Bloody blue. Okay, I can't, and I can only show the first one. So this doesn't work.
Oh dear.
Because I can only show the first page. I can't zoom, I can't go down, I can't do anything. Okay, so how can I
Well, the only other way is to share a link maybe with people so they can go directly to Quranics from the verse we're on. They could always look it up if they feel like, they want to cross-check or confirm what you're saying, right? I will accept obviously what you're saying, and you'll be reading it off either Sahih International, Yusuf Ali. So that's another way, is just to give people the link.
But why can't I go and take what I am seeing? Why can't I take the input? Let me try something else. Let me delete this.
While you do that, I'm just going to chat to everybody. I had a chat with a Muslim today because we did talk about free speech a little bit earlier in the show, and this is a constant issue that needs to be revisited, sadly, over and over again, because there's seemingly more and more people that want to limit speech. So I had a conversation with a Muslim earlier, and he's obviously in favor of some form of limited speech, right? I'm in favor of, as far as possible, free speech, right? And I'm also, and then this went on to, and I'm very much against these hate speech laws and so forth. I would eradicate these if I had the ability to do so. And then we got on to talking about, well, what happens if people, quote unquote, abuse or offend or insult people, right? And we had a long conversation, and the Muslim was part of this. But part of the thing that I said to him is, you're all in favor of this sort of thing, right? Because it suits you now, because your ideology doesn't want certain critiques, right? Certain quote attacks, or whatever the difference is between attack and critique is entirely subjective. Maybe if you're too forthright with your critique, then it suddenly becomes an attack. Or if they can't answer coherently, then it's an attack, right? Like Adnan Rashid. But I said to him, that's all fine for you, but it'll come a time with this sort of thing that you are now supporting where it'll be turned on you, where maybe it's the LGBTQ plus people or the homosexuals or some other minority group that's also pushing for limited speech. Eventually they'll turn, somebody will start to read the Quran. This will then get out, and they'll actually read it, straightforwardly and not just accept apologists' answers. And then they will start to employ the same thing that you are supporting now against you. And of course, this particular Muslim fellow didn't really have any sort of coherent response to that, right? At one point, he tried to argue, well, there's nothing hateful in the Quran. And that obviously allowed me to have a moment of giggles. And I did wonder whether he'd actually read the Quran at that point. And so this whole thing with the freedom of speech, and particularly with Muslims that are enjoying having limited speech and are aligning themselves with others that want limited speech, at some point they will turn on each other. This is what's happened. It's happened in other spheres, and it will eventually happen. How are you doing there, Stops?
No joy. I'm not getting it.
Okay, we'll just have to accept that Stops is a very honorable person. You can, if you post a link, because I can't do that on my phone, but if you post a link to Quranic with that verse, and people could read on from there, they can open it themselves and check. But I'm quite happy for you to read, and if there's no other way to display it on screen. Anyway, you've got a good reading voice anyway, better than mine. So
no, but this is terrible that I can't screen share. I hate it, really. Okay, we stopped on 197, which was about Hajj, where we said Hajj shall be observed in the whatever months without being specified, where we talked about how useless the Quran is in reality when it comes to worshipping the God who only wants one thing from human beings, which is why we're created, and that is to be worshipped, even though he doesn't need worshipping, but that's why we're created. And then he doesn't say how we're worshipped. And we've seen this with prayer, we've seen this with fasting. So all these different pillars in Islam, we are not told what the Shahada is. We're not told anything, and this is also true for Hajj. So Hajj shall be observed in the specified months without specifying what months they are, what to do in those months, what the Hajj actually encompasses, all the rituals. Nothing is given to us. We have to make this up ourselves. So Muslims are following human beings. And then it says, whoever sets out to observe Hajj shall refrain from sexual intercourse. Now, that's very important for this God, okay? What we do when we're naked or when something with sex, it's always a bit dicey. So you should refrain from misconduct, whatever that may be, and arguments throughout Hajj. Whatever good you do, God is fully aware thereof. As you prepare your provisions for the journey, the best provision is righteousness. But we still don't know what righteousness is.
Exactly.
You shall observe me, O you who possess intelligence. Sorry?
No, I'm saying exactly. We don't know what righteousness is. It's like a word, right?
Yeah. And you shall observe me, O you who possess intelligence. Now, how can I observe God when he can't be observed? When he hasn't given us any means of observing this God? We can't even detect this God. Never mind observe this God. And he doesn't say observe the rules that I give to you. No, he says observe me.
Yeah, but I think, again, this is probably, well, it's not probably, it was done in the 7th century where people, nobody's going to critique it like this, right? They're just going to follow along, and these words will just pass right over their head, right? And they're not going to critique this, right? They're just going to accept that, like, observe me. Oh, yes, observe God, as in, like, well, how would you do that? Oh, you just got to have faith, right? And follow the book.
Yeah, but then it says, oh, you who possess intelligence. Yeah, but if you possess intelligence, you are going to critique it and you're going to find out it doesn't make sense. So it doesn't work.
Exactly.
It's a pity we don't have a Muslim here. Listen, if there's any Muslim who feels like joining, if there's anyone who feels like they can do better than we can, and if there's anyone who feels that they can, in any way help in explaining the Quran to us, it would be more than welcome. So if somebody wants to come on, please do. Don't let anything stop you. I would really welcome a Muslim here to show me how to read this Quran, because for me it's impossible. For me, I simply don't know how you're supposed to read this without making fun of it, without ridiculing it, without doubting everything, because it simply does not make sense. And then it says, oh, you who possess intelligence. Well, I think I do possess a little bit of intelligence, and for me, unfortunately, this does not make sense. So
it's not the first verse like that, right?
Abulolo, I refuted them enough times. Abdul Lubda, who's this one? I refuted them enough times. These mans are low in ilm. I don't know what ilm is. If you want to express yourself here, it might make sense to do this in English. Sabur is a Muppet, yeah, this we know. And you educate me, why did Uthman burn Abu Bakr's original Quran? Exactly, that's a good question. And it's again about Rob being Sabur. Quote from an unpublished book in Rob's debate. What? Rob, you really caused a lot of shit there. How could you? My goodness. All you were doing is just quietly letting the guy ramble on, and it's all your fault. These atheists think they're so intelligent, but man, don't even know how to screen share. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm stupid. I'm really, really stupid. That's why I would like to have a Muslim here to tell me how to do these things. If you can screen share this and bring it here, brilliant. I can't. So come on the show, tell us how to screen share this. You do the screen sharing part. You're the Muslim. You're so jacked up and clued up on everything that is to do with science. So you can do the screen share and you can explain the Quran to us. Because I'm too stupid not only to go and screen share, I'm also too stupid to read the Quran and understand it, because I do not understand it.
No, I doubt this fella that if this is in the live comments, I doubt this fella could explain anything really. So, and then again, you get accused of, inviting on somebody that doesn't know much about the Quran. And that's not an accusation I prefer to have leveled. And we're always asking for smart and knowledgeable Muslims. I'm sure they exist. I can't say I've come across one specifically myself, but that doesn't mean that they aren't out there. But that's what we're really looking for, right?
Here's the explanation what ilm is. Now we know. Industrial lights and magic. There you go. ILM, industrial lights. All right. So let's go to 298. You commit no error. Okay, what I can actually do is I can copy this. Copy. What happens if I do this? There you go. So this is what I'm reading for you. Oh shit! I'm over the 200. I'm only allowed 200 thingamajigs.
What are you copying? Okay. Are you trying to paste the whole?
So what I need to do is I need to delete this, which is in brackets. When you file from the usual comments, got a sacred location, and then I'll take this, which is in brackets. I will remove that.
I do love Stops' word by word blow of what he's doing. I do love this.
Yeah, because I want people to know what I'm doing so that they can't accuse me afterwards. Yeah, he's deleting everything. Okay, so you'll have to make do with this. I will read the whole thing for you so that you get the gist. You commit no error by seeking provisions from your Lord, and then in bracket it says through commerce. When you file from Arafat, you shall commemorate God at the sacred location. And then it says in brackets of Muzdalifah. You shall commemorate him for guiding you. Before this, you had gone astray. Okay, so what does this sentence tell us? You commit no error by seeking provisions from your Lord. So it's not wrong to ask for food.
Or whatever other provision, yeah, okay.
Is that correct? Do you understand?
It doesn't specify, does it, what the provisions would be? Would it, like having another wife, be a provision from God, or would it only apply to food or necessities or what?
Yeah, but I have more luck seeking provision from McDonald's than from God.
Yeah, but assuming there was a God and he could in some way provide this sort of thing. Again, you're absolutely right.
But it says through commerce in brackets, through commerce. So it seems to me that there's a tafsir which interprets this as saying seeking provisions means making a profit. So if you make a profit from something, then it's from your God. And if you make a minus, then it's from Satan or what? That would be clever.
That's not the proper use of provisions. What is that? Have you got another translation there? Which one are you reading from?
I've got thousands. Let me go to...
I'm on Sahih International and Yusuf Ali, just so I can see the difference between them, which is one new and one older. The new one's normally easier to read but less accurate, and the older one's normally accurate but slightly more difficult to read.
What I need to do is go to... Is this Quranic? I don't know. Yeah, there we have it. 197. Next is... Not is, okay, the corpus is not is on you any sin that you seek bounty. Ah, that's interesting. That it's not provisions, it's bounty. In other words, that you go to your Lord and you say, God, I want to go and steal something from this caravan. Please help me in stealing stuff. And this is not a sin. Okay. And when you depart from Arafat, then remember Allah near the monument sacred, and remember him as he guided you, and though you were before surely among those who went astray. So in other words, in the past, you went and you stole stuff from caravans without first saying, thank you, God. So now you need to say thank you to God, then you can go and steal stuff from a caravan. And then remember, 1/5 is for God, 1/5 is for Muhammad, 1/5 is for the family of Muhammad, and 2/5 are for his people. So
how do they give 1/5 to God there? How does that work?
Well, Muhammad takes care of it. He's sort of the what do you call, the administrator.
How does he get that to God?
Well, that is between him and God.
I see.
You see, he secretly
passes. That sounds
passes
a bit fishy to me, right? And why would God want anything material on this earth which he created anyway, right?
Rob, you are much too skeptical. Hasn't anybody told you this before?
I know. We should just accept that this is all godly stuff, right? But then again, you and I won't do that. We'll ask some, what I think is reasonable questions, right? And what they should have asked in those days. But
let's go for Sahih International. There is no blame for you for seeking bounty, also bounty from your Lord. But when you depart from Arafat, remember Allah. Now, Arafat, I think this is the hill in Mecca. Remember Allah at Masha al-Haram, exactly. And remember him as he's guided you, for indeed you were before that among those astray. And Yusuf Ali, it is no crime if you seek of the bounty of your Lord. During pilgrimage. Okay, this is different. So Yusuf Ali is very benevolent here, and saying it's no crime if you seek of the bounty. In other words, this is more spiritual. Okay, then when you pour down from Mount Arafat, celebrate the praises of Allah at sacred monument, celebrate his praises as he has directed you. Before this, ye went astray. Now, let me just look at the word. I'm curious about this word bounty. Not is on you any sin that you seek bounty. Fadlan. Okay, what is Fadlan?
I can't see what you're doing. Presumably looking at the root words. Or?
So, Fadu is for the grace, sends down. Fadlihi wills. Fadlan, bounty. Excellent. So this is really bounty. Let's go to Edward William Lane. Let's see what he says. Oh, this takes a while. Okay. Then Fadlan. Companies compound second. Oh, yes. Okay, this is pages and pages and pages. I'm not going to do that. Sometimes not found overcome one day superiority. No, come on. This is crazy. This is too much. Okay, so Fadlan is bounty. And in the... Let me put this back here. In the Rashid Khalifa translation, It is not. It is much more geared towards the spiritual, towards the provisions. So it's not provisions at all.
What is the spiritual term, though? What do you mean by that?
That the fadlan, which is the bounty, which is being given the meaning of something more spiritual, in other words, something that will give you emotional nourishment or something. Because remember, you have this I don't want to use the Arabic. You have this propensity to believe that there's a God. And if you have the propensity to believe that there is a God, you need to believe that this God will give you guidance, will provide you the guidance, and will guide you on the straight path straight to heaven. And this is the provision that you are getting from your Lord, that you are given the right guidance in the right amount at the right time to guide you on the right path. And this is the provision.
But that's what the Quran's for, right? Because if God,
this is the benevolent interpretation. So it's exactly reactionary is helping here. It's the grace from your Lord. This is the the benevolent interpretation. It's the grace from your Lord in the form of guidance on the straight path to heaven. Thank you, reactionary.
But if he's doing the guidance, then why do we need the Quran? If we can appeal to his guidance directly, what's the point of the book? And if we're using the book, but we still need his guidance, then obviously the book isn't complete, right?
Correct.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, but now you're being nitpicky, because if you are being a good Muslim, then you don't see this. Then you look away when it comes to these things. Then the Quran is the literal word of God, and it does provide you with guidance, even though it doesn't. But you're supposed to believe that it does.
There was some guidance in there. If you're looking to God for guidance, then clearly the Quran is not complete, because you're looking to God directly instead of the Quran. If it was all in the Quran, you wouldn't need to look to God, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And this is why it says here with the guidance that this is just spiritual blessing and blah blah blah. But it doesn't. You see, again, it doesn't explain to you when you leave Arafat. It doesn't tell you what Arafat is. You need to know what Arafat. It hasn't explained to us yet. What
is that? Mount Ararat? Is that what it's?
No. This is a hill in Mecca where. Okay, remember. Well, the Hajj is not explained, all the rituals, because there's 7 rituals, well, the number 7 once again, where you need to do all sorts of things. And Arafat is one of those things I think you do at the end. I can't remember from the top of my head all the rituals in Hajj. When we did the Hajj program episode, then I had all this, right at the top, but now I don't. So, and nits aren't going to pick themselves, you see. There you go. That's a classic. Okay. All right. Next. So before you went astray, then you now know what to do, and that is to read the Quran. You shall, in 199, you shall file together with the rest of the people who file and ask God for forgiveness. God is forgiver, most merciful.
Okay, so it just sounds like directions, like one small part of a direction for the Hajj, right?
You shall file together with the rest of the people who file. So stand in line, or what?
Yeah, walk together, I guess. File together.
And ask God for forgiveness. Forgiveness for what?
Well, for the sins that you are continuously committing, right? Because you can't be sinless.
Otherwise, God is forgiver, most merciful. Right? Yeah, except for some things which he doesn't forgive, like shirk. And he's not most merciful, because we know that's a logical contradiction, because if you were most merciful, there wouldn't be such a thing as hell. Because if you are not merciful, then you have maximum punishment. If you are just a tad merciful, then you don't have maximum punishment, which would be not hell. So this is a logical contradiction between most merciful and hell.
Yeah, and most just, right? Mercy
and most just, yeah, same thing, exactly.
Conflict with each other. You can have some mercy and some justice. If you have all justice, you have no mercy, and if you have all mercy, you have no justice, right? So
yeah. Can't have both. Okay, corpus. Then depart from wherever depart the people. People always tell me that the Quran is written so beautifully, but depart from wherever depart the people. Really? And ask forgiveness of Allah. Indeed, Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. Okay, Sahih International, depart from the place where people depart and ask forgiveness. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. And then Yusuf Ali, then pass on it at a quick pace from the place whence it is usual for the multitude to do so. And ask for Allah's forgiveness. Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful.
And is that the hill, right?
That is the hill, yeah.
Okay. I mean, they could have just said the hill there. Again, that would clear that up, right? Or maybe you're supposed to know that from a few verses back. Because this place.
Okay, let's take a look at the tafsir. Maybe they explain this. Then hasten onward from the place whence the multitude hasten. He says, return from whence the people of Yemen have returned. Those who repent, towards those who die in a state of repentance. This was revealed about a group of people called the Amisuyun, who did not want to press on from the inviolable place of worship to Arafat during their pilgrimage. Allah warned them against this, commanding them to go to Arafat and then return from there. Okay, so we still don't know what this is, but at least we get a little bit more. The Jalalains then, Thumma, press on, or Quraysh. Okay, he reckons, no. This is not for the Hamziyun. This is not for the people of Yemen, but this is the Quraysh. From where the people press on, that is from Arafat, for standing there together, for they used to stand at Muzdalifah, disdaining to stand with other people, and seek God forgiveness for your sins, God is forgiving. Kashani, then press on from where the people press on and press towards the outer forms of devotion, obedience, and all of the duties ordained by the obligations and transactions of the law, from where, meaning from the station from which all people press on, and be like any one of them. All Junaid, God's mercy be on him, was once asked, what is the end? He said, the return of the beginning. Seek God's forgiveness against the soul manifesting itself and becoming weary of its state of its tyranny. The prophet said, verily my heart is overcome, and I so seek God's forgiveness 70 times a day. He said, O God, establish me firmly upon your religion. And he was asked why he was this, to which he replied, what else would give me the security, given that this likeness of the heart is as a feather in an open expanse when the wind turns about as they wish. And when his feet... Okay. Ibn Kathir is always very wordy and does not explain it. No, sorry, there's nothing here that we can learn from this sentence in the Quran. I'm very sorry. Anything in the chat?
Wouldn't be necessary, right? If this was more explained, yes, it would have made the book a bit, the Quran bigger, right? Longer, etc. But if it was explained directly in there, then you wouldn't need the tafsirs, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, what would happen if this sentence would not be there? Would you be missing anything?
Which sentence, though?
This sentence, you shall file together with the rest of the people who file and ask God for forgiveness. God is forgiver, most merciful. Is there anything in here that is new, unique, or explanatory for anything? Well,
they could argue that that's like the command to go forth to do the Hajj, right? And to ask forgiveness. But I think the next sentence doesn't seem to mean much, right? Always not clear. Depart from
Fatih, the Jinn&Tonic show. Here's a hijab explaining that sending people to eternal hell is logical for people who are ascribing partners to Allah. Yeah, this is the shirk thing. Okay. If anybody wants to go and take a look at this, there you go. Fatih has just given you the link to this. Summarizes the entire Quran and Muslim mindset entirely. Atheists, the prevarication is an indication that they do not believe it. They can just can't because of the reputation of them which admit it. Okay. Yep. There you go. You just can't admit it. Nope, I will not admit it. And after show, remember people, here's the link to the Discord. The Discord server, this is going to be important in future because we're going to have the Discord server as the primary source for the Jinn&Tonic show. So we're just sitting here on rented on whatever rent time, what do you call this? On
Google Hangouts.
We're sitting on Hangouts, but this is on something
Discord.
Time.
What do you mean something time?
I'm looking for the idiom. I've got a blank at the moment.
Oh, borrowed time.
Borrowed time, thank you. On borrowed time because we're just too lazy to move everything across. But so the Discord server is going to be important. Make yourselves at home there. Get acquainted. I still have problems, I must admit it. We were sitting yesterday because the writing is a little bit faint and I don't really know where the text is and where the voice is and things like that. So looking around a bit doesn't hurt. And if anybody wants to ask a question after the show or wants to comment or wants to do or correct or anything, come on over to the Discord server and talk to us after the show. Calling your children Muhammad in recent weeks at borrowed time. There you go. Now I'm getting it. Thank you very much. Borrowed time. Okay, you shall fall together is a sentence which I think doesn't give us very much. Let's go to 200. Once you complete your rites, you shall continue to commemorate God as you commemorate your own parents, or even better. Some people would say, our Lord, give us of this world, while having no share in the hereafter. Guys, what the hell is happening here?
What do you mean?
I don't know what the hell to do with this. Once
Just read it again. Read another translation.
Once you complete your rights. Okay, let me read. Which one do you want? Okay, let me go to international. Sorry, I first have to click next. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm slow. And I've got so many windows open. This is also slow. And when you have completed your rites, same thing, rites as in rites. Remember Allah like your remembrance of your fathers, or with greater remembrance. And among the people is he who says, "O Lord, give us in this world," and he will have in the hereafter no share.
Okay, so they're obviously pointing out somebody else who's not a follower and saying, hey, give me material stuff, and he won't get something in the hereafter.
Let me see how much of this I can copy paste. Is this over 200? It's 255.
Just copy the link. People can click on the link, right? They'll open the browser.
When you have completed your rights. Okay, I'm going to leave out when you have completed. No, I need. I'll take out the and. What else can I leave out when you complete your rights? Remember Allah like your. I'll take out the previous because it's in brackets. How many is that? 240. Yes. I'll take out the or with greater remembrance.
Stop, just give them the link and they can click on the link, right?
And take out the and. There we go. Now I'm on 200. And if you want the link, copy, paste, if you want to read along. Because, okay, I must admit, I'm puzzled, all right? It says here, so when you have accomplished your holy rites, so accomplished. In other words, when you're finished with Hajj, celebrate the praises of Allah, celebrate the praises, as you used to celebrate the praises of your fathers, but even more so. And there are men who say, Lord, give us bounties in this world, but they will have no portion in the hereafter. I got it. Oh, Jesus, you're so good. And among the people is he. Okay. So there are people who do the Hajj, and they will praise God like they used to praise only the Father. So the way that you praise your parents, you're supposed to praise God, but even more than you praise your parents. And there are other people who say, no, Lord, give us in this world. Don't give us in the future world. Give us here and now. Don't wait until we're dead. And those who will want this stuff in today's world, they will have no hereafter. In other words, they will not get all the rewards later. They will not get the rewards today. They will get absolutely nothing. So this is what this thing is trying to tell us. I've got it. Alhamdulillah. So there are, if you've completed your Hajj, then remember what you have done. Remember why you have done that. Because you are doing this, because you are remembering your God the way that you are remembering your parents, but even more so. Because there are other people who say, I don't care about Hajj, I don't care about what is happening, I want it now. When do we want it? Now. But those are the people.
What is it they want, though? Presumably it's earthly belongings, goods,
rewards,
something, right? Yep.
The bounties, the rewards. In other words, the profit. They want the earthly profit and the earthly rewards, and not what is going to come in the future in heaven. But now I've made a video about this, about the logical fallacy here, because there's a contradiction. Or let's say it's illogical. Because if I am a non-Muslim, I can get what a Muslim gets in heaven. Because remember, what does a Muslim get in heaven? He gets wine and virgins. Well, if I'm a non-Muslim, I can have wine and virgins here. So I'm already living in heaven.
Yeah, you get those things here, don't you, as well? No.
Exactly.
But maybe they're much better there somehow.
So the wine in heaven is better than the wine here?
Yes, presumably. I've heard Muslims say
They've
that.
never had any South African wine, let me tell you.
I've heard Muslims say that. So whatever you get here, though, it's way better there.
Try a
Whatever that might
Boschendal
be.
Blanc de Noir, and I'll tell you, that's it. That's it. That's all you need. A Boschendal Blanc de Noir and a nice virgin. Come on, what more do you want? And you can have this here, but you need to be an atheist. You can't be a Muslim. Muslims are not allowed to have that. They need to wait until they're dead to get what I'm getting here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because God knows that you like these sort of things, right? Or human beings like these. So prevent them from getting it here, which encourages them to get it there, right? It's the carrot.
And then I even get a dartboard on top of that, something you don't get in heaven. I've never seen any hadith or any Quranic verse telling me that there's a dartboard in heaven.
Yeah, somebody's making that up.
So there you go.
They probably didn't have such a thing.
Once you complete your rites, there you go again. Oh no, this is the none. Okay, others would say, our Lord, grant us righteousness in this world and righteousness in the hereafter, and spare us the retribution of hell. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So give us what's
apart
good.
from what righteousness is, right?
Yeah, okay, this we still don't know. But then we're just asking, grant us righteousness. So give us whatever this righteousness is, so that we're doing the right thing. And I don't know why, I always have to tell the story. The only righteous person in Sodom and Gomorrah is Lot. And then he goes and gets drunk every night and has sex with his daughters. And that is the only righteous person in Sodom and Gomorrah. So there's something wrong with the morality of this God, let me tell you.
Yeah, I don't know what the righteous is, right?
202, each of these will receive the share they have earned, and God is most efficient in reckoning. Each of these what? Will receive the ones who go and the ones who don't. So the people who go on Hajj and wait patiently for the rewards that they will get in heaven, and those who don't, like me. So the good Muslim will receive the share they have earned, and I get the share that I have earned, which is punishment. So the one goes to heaven and has virgins and Boschendal Blanc de Noir, and I go to hell where all the interesting people are.
So just there, while you've got a moment, stops. I've got to shoot off. I've got to go a little earlier, so I apologize, and I will definitely be back to host next Friday.
Okay.
Hopefully Thunderous will join us. Otherwise, enjoy for a little while longer, and I will see you next week Friday.
Okie dokie.
Thank you, sir. Good night to everybody. Thank you. Cheers.
Enjoy Crucifixion Day.
Yeah. Cheerio.
All right. So I suppose Thunderous hopefully will come on just now to support me. So I need to, thank goodness I already did my Bible thing today, so then I don't need to do this again. Biblical lot is not the same characteristic as Islamic lot. Oh, really? Can you tell me where it says that there's something different between the biblical lot and the Quranic lot? Wasn't the Lot the same guy who was saved from Sodom and Gomorrah, who did not get the punishment of the brimstone? Isn't that what the Quran says? So I think Lot is the same Lot. So I don't know if you want to go there and now differentiate between the biblical lot and the Quranic lot, just because the Quran leaves out the part that you don't like. Okay, 203 we've done. So now we are going to 204. This is like a totally, now one topic, the Hajj is done. And we're going, among the people, one may impress you. Try again. Among the people, one may impress you with his utterances concerning this life, and may even call upon God to witness his innermost thoughts, while he is a most ardent opponent. Among the people, one may impress you with what he says regarding this life. So if I'm telling you about this life, about the Boschendal Blanc de Noir and the virgins, and may even call upon God to witness his innermost thoughts. No, I don't do that. So here we're talking about a hypocrite, somebody who says, don't worry about God, worry about what's happening today, here and now. Well, he is the most ardent opponent. Okay, so he's talking about a hypocrite. So he's talking about, let me try a different translation. Remember, to those who hasten, oh, sorry, I think I've jumped the gun here. I need to go one back. No. What? This is like totally different. Okay, 203, 204. Of the people is one who pleases you with his speech, and he calls to witness on what is in his heart, and he is the most, okay, doesn't make sense. Sahih International, and of the people is he whose speech pleases you in worldly life, and he calls Allah to witness as to what is in his heart, yet he is the fiercest of weapons. Okay, this is the same thing. This is the type of man whose speech about this world's life may dazzle you, and he calls Allah to witness about what is in his heart, yet he is the most contentious of enemies. Okay, so the same thing. This is about somebody who says the stuff here is very good, and there's a God who's in favor of enjoying what we have today, but in reality, he's not about. So this is about some hypocrite. 205, as soon as he leaves, he roams the earth corruptingly, destroying properties and lives. God does not love corruption. Yeah, but hang on, God created this guy, knowing full well that this guy is going to roam the earth corruptingly, destroying properties and lives. And yet he created this guy or girl or whatever. So I don't really understand how a God, knowing full well what a person will do in the future, can create this guy and then punish the guy. So he does not love corruption, but he creates a guy to corrupt things. I don't know, it's also illogical. So 206, when he is told to observe God, he becomes arrogantly indignant. Consequently, his only destiny is hell. What a miserable abode. This is one of those 105 times that the Quran says, if you don't believe God exists, go to hell. So I am threatened here. So this is hate speech. This is another instance here of hate speech where it says, if you do not do what I'm telling you to do, if you don't believe that I exist, you are going to go to hell. And it's a miserable abode. There you have it. There's hate speech again. Oh, goodness. Oh, this is such a nice comment. When I read the Quran, I was surprised I didn't end up in an asylum, banging my head on the wall. This is true. We are victorious. Jinn&Tonic, it sounds like you're still mad at this deity. Like, I'm mad? How can I be mad at something? Am I mad at Cinderella? No. How can I be mad with something that doesn't exist? Why even place judgment on an imaginary being? Because this is a book where other people tell me that this is the product of a God. So all I'm doing is I'm reading this to see, is this really true? Is this something that when I read it, and Muslims tell me that if I read the Quran, I'm going to be a Muslim. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to read the Quran and understand what it says. And I'm telling every single Muslim, if there's an imam, if there's a scholar, if there's anybody out there who can tell me what these things say, come in, pull in, tell us what these things say. Because at the moment, I'm only depending on my own ability, on my own intellect, and that is all I can come up with. If I see he becomes arrogantly indignant, consequently his only destiny is hell, this means that I am going to go to hell. I am threatened with hell, and that's hate speech. And that's what I'm seeing here. So if this is a God who created me as somebody who is going to be destroying properties and lives, then why am I to blame for what this God created, knowing I will do that, and then sealing my heart, sealing my eyes, ears, and nose, and everything, and then saying, go ahead and do it? That's not a nice thing to say. So if you are a Muslim and you read the Quran and you think that this is fair, that this God creates people only to go to hell, that he creates people who will destroy properties and lives, and God knows that they will be destroying properties and lives, and you think that this God deserves worship, well, then it's up to you to question whether this God really deserves worship, or if there could be a way that a God could be a much nicer God. And then this God would deserve worship. But unfortunately, we only have this version of the Quran. If you want to rewrite the Quran and give me a better version of a God, you're welcome to do so. But until then, don't shoot me, the messenger. This is your God writing this. And if your God, dear Muslim, is saying that I need to go to hell because this incompetent creator created me in a different way than he wanted me to be created, then this is not my fault. That's it. So I'm just reading the stuff. I didn't write it. 207. Then there are those who dedicate their lives to serving God. God is compassionate towards such worshippers. Well, no, what is so special? I mean, it says very clearly that God creates the jinn and the people to worship him. And now if you do, then he's compassionate. Why? You're only doing as directed. You're only told to do, you're only doing what you are told to do. You are an obedient sheep, just doing things without any reason. And because you're doing things without any reason, you're being told, yeah, excellent. How's that excellent? God knew you were going to do that. So why should he be compassionate? It's another, in my eyes, logical fallacy. Exactly, Rashi, why would God create me to worship him knowing that I would? Exactly. And why would God create me to worship him knowing that I would not? This is the question that you need to ask yourself. And then, why do you worship a guy who is doing both these things, which are contradictory to one another? So, you who believe, this is to you, Muslims, you shall embrace total submission. Do not follow the steps of Satan, for he is your most ardent enemy. Okay, so Muslims are told you need to be submissive. You need to bow down. You're not allowed to stand up. You're not allowed to have an ego. You're not allowed anything. You just need to be submissive. And don't follow Satan. Why is Satan the enemy? What are we told about Satan? Does the Quran tell us anything about Satan? No. We're just told he's the enemy. So why is Satan the enemy? I don't get it. Why should Satan be the enemy when Satan doesn't do anything? Well, what has he done so far? Nothing. We're not told why he's the enemy. We're not told how he's the enemy. It's just he's the enemy. But I don't know why. And if I go to other, translations, and of the people who sells his own self in Allah is full of kindness of mankind. Okay, let me go to Sahih International. And of the people is he who sells himself seeking means of the approval, and Allah is kind to his servants. I don't get it. I don't understand the contradiction. I don't understand the illogical way of trying to sell you this stuff. If anybody can explain it, please go ahead and do so. I don't. If you backslide, and this is sentence number 209, after the clear proofs, so if you backslide after the clear proofs, does anybody still remember what proofs are? Proofs are contact sheets. In other words, you have a film, which is in a camera, you take it out, and then you put the developed film on a piece of photo paper, and then give it 3 seconds of light, and then you will have the proofs. This is just to give you a rough idea of what is on the film. These are called proofs. So I don't know why they use these words. After the clear proofs have come to you, then know that God is almighty and most wise. So if I go to 209 and I look at other translators, do they make the same mistakes? Let's see Sahih International. But if you deviate after clear proofs have come to you, then know that Allah is exalted in might and wise. Yep. Yusuf Ali, if you backslide after the clear signs, okay, here it's not proofs, but signs have come to you, then know that Allah is exalted in power and wise. Okay. After the clear proofs. So if you backslide, in other words, if you go back to where you were, in other words, this is always assuming that you were a Jew or a Christian, a Zoroastrian or whatever, and you read the Quran and you are given proofs. Okay, I will take that as evidence or signs. After the signs have been presented to you and you still go back, then you need to know that God is almighty. Does anybody understand this? God is almighty, and yet you can backslide. That doesn't make sense. That's a contradiction. So maybe the word backslide is slightly misleading here. But Hilali and Khan, then if you slide back, Pikthal, if you slide back, Sai International. But if you deviate, Yusuf Ali, if you backslide, backslide means to go back. So if you go back, after the clear signs have been given to you, then you need to know that God is almighty and most wise. Well, he wasn't almighty because I backslid. And he's not most wise because he should have known that the clear proofs, these signs, were not so clear because they didn't convince like hardly anybody. I mean, we have 85–90% of the population on this planet today where they are not Muslims. So this is not so clear, and it's not proofs, and the signs are not so good either. So God is neither almighty, nor is this God most wise. Okay. Any comments? If Islam quarter believe this stuff and wish to, it's their freedom. Absolutely. If they try and convert me, forced to invade, they should be corrected. Absolutely, that's what we're trying to do. I really don't care what people believe or how they wish to keep it to themselves. Exactly, this is the point. I wouldn't give a continental hoot if a Muslim wants to be a Muslim, he wants to believe in the flying donkey, go ahead. I do not care. If you want to believe that the moon was split into a, go ahead. I don't care. But don't preach this. Don't expect others to accept this. Don't expect others to take this in their stride or to accept this. Thunderous is here. Hello, sir. How are you doing? You can unmute the mic. I have opened you up. You can speak if you do it gently.
Hi.
Okay, short and sweet. Okay, I'm in the middle of explaining chapter number 2, sentence number 209. I don't know if you have a Quranic, if you have anything in front of you. Should I put the...
Yeah, no, I've got it. Sorry for being late. I was just reading some of the surahs previous to the one that you were just reading now. It's just to give me some kind of context of where we are. And it's just with, I don't know what to say, but what I'm reading is just meaningless gibberish. Just reading from 207, for instance. I don't want to repeat the verse, but and take up more time. But there's a statement there made by Allah that He shows kindness to His devotees. Well, how is that kindness demonstrated? How is it manifested? Then it talks about in 208, enter paradise wholeheartedly, not follow the footsteps of Satan. Well, what footsteps did he make? All he did was check. I still don't understand what is the issue that you could follow Satan's footsteps. What kind of rebelliousness is it? What is the issue? That you know, what would be the gain? What would be the loss? There's nothing. No, there's no information. It's just vacuous statements. Then the one that you're just going on now, 209, about if you backslide, clear signs have come to you, then no Allah exalted. How can you be exalted if somebody leaves? That's, you know, if a husband leaves a wife, that doesn't exalt the wife, does it?
Exactly.
You know, if a father abandons the children, that doesn't exalt the children, and if the children abandon the father, that doesn't exalt the father. So I fail to discern what point is being made there, and it just seems to me that if you're a Muslim, there's no way out of that. And the only thing I can perceive is that if you're sitting there in the audience when Muhammad was reciting this, it just seems to be just a load of words that are made to rhyme. There seems to be nothing else other than like a rhyming prose being given here, and any word was used to rhyme. and it just came out with a meaningless statement.
Okay, so you also see this, that there's a contradiction here.
Yeah. It's monumentally obvious as a contradiction. I mean, if you backslide after clear signs, well, we don't even know what the clear signs were. What was the sign or signs? You know, was it the parting of waters? Was it the raising of the dead? Was it a cow was cut in half and put back together again? What was the signs? How were they manifest? So people could see that there was some evidence, and they backslid from the evidence. So what was the evidence that made them come forward in the first place, and for them to backslide? Something must have drew these people in the first place. That's why they came forward. But then they went backwards.
Yeah, but this is circular again, because they're going to tell you that the clear proof is the Quran.
But the Quran wasn't fully revealed at this moment.
But this is why it's circular, because you're being told that it is the clear proof because the Quran says it's the clear proof, and the clear proof is the Quran. So if you backslide, then it's your mistake, and this is exactly the contradiction now, because if you backslide after the Quran was given to you, and you have been given the sign, which is the Quran, and then the Quran says, then God is Almighty, which is absolutely stupid. It's
the same line of reasoning as the other line of reasoning when Muslims, well, Muhammad is a prophet because the Quran says so. The Quran is a prophet of the Quran is the word of God because Muhammad said so.
Yeah.
It's the same, sort of like on the same level. So how many circles are there in Islam like this?
2:10. Are they waiting until God himself comes to them in dense clouds together with the angels? When this happens, the whole matter will be terminated, and to God everything will be returned. This is the next threat. So what I'm understanding here is that they are waiting that God comes in as a cloud with the angels. But remember, when this happens, then we're going to be in the end times. So this is the eschatology of the whole thing of Islam.
So the proofs couldn't have been that clear if the statement is there. Will they wait till Allah comes with them in canopies of clouds with angels, and in brackets in His train? They had trains and steam engines or locomotion in Muhammad's day, and the questions is thus settled. So if there were clear signs, why would they need God to come down on clouds? If the signs were clear. The signs could not have been that clear. It's no different today when somebody who doesn't believe in God questions somebody who does believe in God and says, well, let's see a demonstration of your God acts now, because I see no evidence. I see no miracles being performed. I see no signs. That must have been the kind of dialogue that was taking place back then. It's very similar to what happens now. The conversation between a theist and atheist. Let's see the evidence of your God. And that seems to be the kind of like dialogue that we've got here.
So this is also something that is very weird. Miracles 2:11. Ask the children of Israel. Children of Israel. Ask the children of Israel. I don't know Israel. Israel is a country. It doesn't have children. Israel is a state, not a person. But I know that there are people who call themselves Israel. Okay, ask the children of Israel, how many profound miracles have we shown them? For those who disregard the blessings bestowed upon them by God, God is most strict in retribution.
Well, the Bible's been corrupted, isn't it? So why would Muhammad ask people to go back to the nation of Israel that have a book that Islam claims is being corrupted?
And how many profound miracles have we shown? Well, none. Because all we have is just tales. We have statements, we have claims, we have people telling us there were miracles, but they were not shown to anybody. Like I've never seen a miracle. Nobody has ever been able to demonstrate a miracle. A miracle. I tell you guys, this allergy is terrible because my tongue is like double the size. It's very difficult to articulate words. It's quite strange. So what does Sahih International say? Ask the children of Israel how many a sign of evidence we have given them. Okay, here it's sign of evidence. Here it's very different. And whoever exchanges the favor of Allah has come to the... no, sorry, this is the wrong sentence. No, it's not. This was 2:11. So why is it so different? We gave them, he who altereth the greatest picture. Sahih International, whoever changes the favor for disbelief after it has come to him, then Allah is severe in penalty. So what happened just now, 2 sentences before, it didn't say about anything about strict retribution. It says God is compassionate. God is the most efficient in reckoning. He is the, here, God is in 199. So this is just a few sentences earlier. It says, God is forgiver, most merciful, and almighty, most wise. And then all of a sudden, most strict in retribution. Really?
But those, then also later on in the Quran, it says that there's no compulsion in religion.
So this is
how do you reconcile the threats of all these signs that Allah is supposed to be given in Islam's first formative years, that if people are rejecting him, he's threatening them, but then he says there's no compulsion in religion. So how do you reconcile the no compulsion in religion with the threats that are looming that if you backtrack or backslide? How does this get reconciled?
I can't. How many profound miracles have we shown? I don't know. For those who disregard, most strict. Okay, so if you, this is clear hate speech. If you don't do as I'm telling you to do, if you don't believe that I exist, then you will be punished. So those who disregard the blessings, it's not a blessing, it's a threat. So if I disregard the threat, then I'm going to be punished, and very strict, in a very strict way. Okay, 212, short-sightedness. This worldly life is adorned in the eyes of the disbelievers, and they ridicule those who believe. However, the righteous will be far above them on the day of resurrection. God blesses whomever he wills without limits. Worldly life is adorned in the eyes of the believer. Okay, let me quickly go before you, and let me read the same thing from a different translation in Sahih International. Beautified for those who disbelieve is the life of this world, and they ridicule those who believe. But those who fear Allah are above them on the day of resurrection, and Allah gives provision to whom he wills without account. And Yusuf Ali, the life of this world is alluring to those who reject faith, and they scoff at those who believe. But the righteous will be above them on the day of resurrection, for Allah bestows his abundance without measure on whom he wills.
That was the point, isn't it? That wasn't brought out in the other translations, where it says Allah bestows his abundance without measure on whom he will. Yeah. See, that point isn't brought out in the other translations. But it's again, it's yet again that threatening verse of like, if you're following Muhammad, you really want to define which God you're serving. So it's you have to worship Allah, because if not, then there's that day of retribution to look forward to. And anybody sitting in the presence of Muhammad that's listening to this would be more inclined to want to agree with Muhammad rather than disagree, because if you see, it's like that. I don't know if you've ever come across those psychological tests where you've got 10 people sitting in the room, 9 people are in on it, but only one of them isn't, and there's a process of conformity, like standing in the lift facing a certain direction. If everybody's facing one direction, then the last person to go to the lift, he tends to follow the pattern of everybody else that's already in there, in standing and facing in the same direction. I don't know if you've come across these psychological tests. It's the same thing that's happening here, that he's creating a psychological, if like, arena where he's getting people to pretty much obey, listen, act, and react the way that he wants them. It's like a peer pressure.
Well, there's this experiment. I've made a video about this where 5 people are sitting in a room and they add some guy who doesn't know that the others are all actors.
Yeah.
And they say which stick is longer, A, B, or C. And then the first guy will say B, the second guy will say B, the third guy will say B, and then the next guy is the guy who says, hang on, but the first stick is longer. So it should be A, but everybody else is saying B. So in order to not stick out and not be seen as the fool, he just will say B. And this is the peer pressure that you're talking about. And this is documented so many times.
Yeah, then that was actually, I was going to cite that example, but I think you clearly put it better than I did, or I would have done. And yeah, that pattern of thinking is what's taking place here. And the thing is, you see, when you got people like Abu Bakr and such, these would have been people that would have been recognized in the community as being like, you know, the ones that are taking the lead, the ones that are the elders in the community, the elders of the tribe, the respected men of the tribe.
The authorities, yeah.
Yeah, the authorities. So it'd be difficult if you're a lesser man in the presence of such bigger men to be challenging the direction that they're going in, because it's like these are the I don't want to use the word the intellectuals or the academics, because that wouldn't have been what they were in those days, but certainly those that took the lead in, you know, financial matters, or they had a presence in the community because they came from big families, wealthy families, affluent families, or influential families. It would be difficult to challenge their authority. So you'll find in such a situation with that village mentality that you're more in line or more inclined to succumb to the direction that the community is going in. And Khadija, Muhammad's, the first prophet of Islam, she was clearly an authoritative figure in the community. Marrying Muhammad promoted his status. His social circle would no doubt would have been with people of that kind of social standing. So rallying his friends around to his cause of that social standing would have been a great influence of the lesser ones that are in the vicinity.
Well, in the company today, there's different tools that you apply if you want to analyze the company. But if you go for a project, for example, you always try and analyze who is the maker, the doer, the influencer. So there's different roles for different people, and you always try and define who is what, so that you know what kind of a attitude you will expect from them, and what kind of attitude you will have to show to them, whether it's going to be emotional or factual or whatever. And this is the same thing what you have here. You have a mixture now in this second chapter of physical, spiritual, emotional, all sorts of things, which all combined tell you need to believe or else. And this is what he says, that if you don't believe, you're going to be punished, and it's not going to be pretty.
I think that's an interesting point you raised there about business. I think as human beings, if you are that kind of personality, you're going to recognize that when you walk into a room of strangers, those who have settled, I don't know if you've ever done this yourself, Stops, but you can walk into a room full of strangers and you can pretty much guess, like who's going to play the alpha male role against you and try and challenge you in that alpha male kind of way. Those who have a sense of humor, those who are naturally gifted at leading, those who are perhaps psychologically more inclined to like follow rather than lead, the adaptable kind of people, and I think Muhammad must have been very, very good at perceiving that within in the community, where he had that natural inclination and ability to perceive, and also to what if you like, spiritual tools to use in order to have that influence on that community. So he knew what to say at the right time, what was going to be the most effective dialogue to influence the audience that was listening to him.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to 2:13. The people used to be one community when God sent the prophets as bearers of good news, as well as warners. He sent down with them the scripture bearing the truth to judge among the people in their disputes. Ironically, those who received the scripture were the ones who rejected any new scripture, despite clear proofs given to them. This is due to jealousy on their part. God guides those who believe. God guides those who believe to the truth that is disputed by all others in accordance with his will. God guides whoever wills in a straight path. Okay? Yeah, but this is what you just said. Because people used to be in one community when God sent the prophets, but people will dispute this. So already He is saying, look, I understand that some of you will be against this. You will reject the new scripture. But remember, there's clear proof in this. But this is, I understand you. You're jealous because your scripture that you believe in is now being replaced by something better, which has clear proof. And this is why you're right. He's very good at this. He's already addressing the doubts and things that people might have before they even have it. And he says, look, I'm giving you the stuff, and I know that you're going to be jealous, and I know that this is going to, you're going to have doubts because this is new stuff, and you already have your stuff, and you think it's good enough. But remember, I'm giving you the stuff with all the evidence that you could ever want.
And the interesting thing is, because I think it's in chapter 54, or you can correct me on this, where as the more and more of the Qur'an's revealed, I think some of the people in the community now were beginning to smell a rat, because through contradiction or inconsistency or what other anomaly. But Muhammad says, do not ask questions that will cause you trouble.
That's chapter 5, yeah.
Is it chapter 5? Well, I knew there was a 5 in there somewhere. So this could, for me, with the ones, for the audience that are unfamiliar with the Quran, both Stops and myself, we have a little bit of experience with the Quran, so we already know what's coming, so to speak. So when we're reading these verses, it's almost like we can see where it's going to go, or when he's going to start to get a problem. We know what verses are going to come to preemptive those problems. But the thing is here for this, when it says that mankind is one single nation and I'll send down messengers, well, we've got to bear in mind that was 123,999 messengers he sent, with glad tidings and warnings, and with them he sent the book of truth. Well, which book of truth was this, and where did it go?
It was the third version of the truth.
Well, you say the third version. I challenge that narrative, because if 123,999 prophets went forward, I don't believe that if that's true, that there would have only have been 3 books, and the Quran is one of them. So only 2 other books were revealed. There's more books.
Well, there's a very interesting sentence later on in chapter 4, which says that a messenger was sent to all the nations to bring the good news in their language. But it doesn't say, is in their language the language of the prophets, or is it the language of the nations? It doesn't say. It's ambiguous. It's vague. Now, the problem is that if this was in the language of those who would be able to understand it, in other words, in their own language, because it wouldn't make sense to give the Norwegians or the people in Iceland a Quran in Arabic. I mean, they wouldn't understand it. So it must have been in the language of the nation, in other words, in Icelandish. Now, if there was a Quran in Icelandish, there must have been a Quran in every single language of every single nation. Where the fuck are they?
And the thing is, you can very well reason with a Muslim. It would have, rather than say it was the language of the prophet or the language of God, it had to have been in the language of the nations or other peoples in their tongues. For one thing, if you went through the Quranic narrative, was it not God that caused the problem with the languages in the first place? So he'd be responsible for going to them with a message that they could understand. And the second cause of argument that would be irrefutable is that, well, let's go by the Quranic narrative that other books are said, and he's normally pointing to the 2, the Torah and the Injil and the Zabur. But the Torah and the Zabur were written in Hebrew, so that's one language, and the Injil was written in Greek. So that's 2 languages, and that was in the language of the audience that was listening to it, not just the language of the prophet, nor the language of God. So you can fairly deduce with the revelations that we know, the 2 that we know, that the other languages would have had to have been the language of the nation. So as you said correctly, the Norwegians would have had it in the Norwegian language. Absolutely. There's no way out of it. And if that is the case, where's the evidence for these books? What books were they? Where are they? Why have they disappeared? How have they disappeared?
Well, it says the people used to be one community, which is absolute nonsense, because if it was one community, then he's talking only about the Jews, only about the Christians, or only about the Zoroastrians, because in those days, one community was all those people who were one single group, but around a God.
Yeah. Mankind was one single nation. So if everybody were like the nation, I don't know, the nation of Israel or the nation of France or the nation of whatever nation you want to refer to, or even a continent for that, that all mankind was one single continent. There's no evidence that if that was the case, at what point was they a single nation, and at what point did they become multiple nations? Where in history, in the Islamic recension, does this incident take place? And more importantly, why? Why does that take place?
Exactly. Okay. Anything else on this?
No, it's just word salad.
God guides whoever wills. Okay, God guides whoever he wills, or is it God guides if I want in a straight path?
I think it's one of those like psychological arguments yet again. If you become a Muslim, then the person's going to feel like, oh, God's guided me. That's why I'm listening to Muhammad. And anybody and everybody wants to feel, if you believe in a God, that you are the one being led by God. You know, if you was to read a certain text that was positive or negative, you know, and it was identifying a certain personality trait or direction that you're going to move your life in, you would want to identify yourself with the positive side. You don't want to accept the negative side as you being that being applying to you. So this here, if they're becoming Muslim, they're going to walk away with a sense of, yeah, I'm being led by God because I'm listening to Muhammad. I'm believing every word he's saying.
And
so they feel
exactly, and this is what it says: God guides those who believe, in the truth that is disputed by all others. So in other words, he already looks and says, well, the people who will sort of not believe what you are saying, they're wrong, but they believe that what they believe is the truth, but it's not.
Or they will walk away thinking, well, God hasn't guided them. So if God hasn't guided them, there must be a deficiency in them as to why God hasn't guided them.
Yeah,
there must
exactly.
be wrong with them. That's why God has rejected them. But also, I think it was, you know, there was, if you like, a bluff going on here as well. He knew his audience weren't intelligent or literate. Forgive me, I don't want to use the word intelligent. I want to use the word literate. They weren't literate. They were just as illiterate as he was. So he was calling a bluff because he knew his audience wouldn't go and check to verify whether he was the person he claimed to be, or whether the words in other religions had the words that he was claiming were in there. He was calling a bluff, and he knew it.
Then you're going to love this one. 2:14. Do you expect to enter paradise without being tested like those before you? They were tested with hardship and adversity, were shaken up until the messenger and those who believed with him said, where is God's victory? God's victory is near. Oh boy, this is so funny. Do you expect to enter paradise without being tested? Yes. Yes, indeed. If I'm being told, if you do A, B, and C, and if you do A, B, and C, then you get to paradise, then I expect to enter paradise. Because if somebody tells me do A, B, and C, then this is a promise. If you do A, B, and C, you get to paradise. But it's not. Because you're being told to do A, B, and C, and then you're still being tested. But what are you being tested on? How are you being tested? You don't know. And you will never know the outcome of this test, because the Quran tells you that it's up to God at the end of the day, or up to Jesus at the end of the day, how the test is going to come out. But you don't know what is the test. You don't know what you're tested on, how, or what the score is. You have no idea.
Or more importantly, why? Why would God do this? Why would Allah test? I mean, for starters, if you go back to some Muslims believe that everybody was in paradise, heaven, before they came to earth. See, that raises its own issues, because that means Adam and Eve could not have been the only human beings in heaven then. There must have been millions and billions. Well, at the moment, there are 6.3 billion on planet Earth now. So that must have been 6.3 billion human beings in heaven. That's not taking into consideration all those that have died from Adam to the point of time where we are now. Let's just assume, for argument's sake, that's another 4 billion. So that must mean that there were 10.7 billion in heaven before they came to Earth. If you go by some of the Muslims, like we had Benny and Mohammed on the show a few weeks ago, who claimed that we were all in heaven before we came to Earth, and we accepted to take this test. What is the point of the test? Why is it, so Adam and Eve cannot be the mother and father of all humanity like the religion claims, because if they were in heaven before we came to Earth, that means Allah created as individuals before we came, and not Adam and Eve. unless it gets, if you like, convoluted at this point, because I was thinking about it several weeks ago. But just to move away from that, it doesn't make sense then when you're looking at where the scripture turns around and says the test. Why is God himself involved in the test? It's no different to a father going up to a child, for argument's sake, and saying, lift up, you know, a 10-year-old child, lift up that 55-pound bag of potatoes and move it from A to B. When the child fails to do it, the father then goes over and punishes the child. But the father should already know that the child is incapable of lifting up a 55-pound bag of potatoes.
That's a nice analogy, yeah.
The whole point, you know, when you consider tests in the way that human beings do tests, before the test arrives, normally a person's educated on the subject that they're going to be tested in. So there's a process or a curriculum, or even in the workplace, there is a process of education in your role or in your subject that you have to go through. And then at the end, if you're an agreed or an arranged point in time, you're going to be tested on that subject, which gives you a certain amount of time to revise for that test, so that you know that you're going to, so that you can have every option, if you like, or every availability to pass that test. Yeah. We're not having that with Allah here. We don't even know we made this contract in heaven before we came to earth, and then he's giving us tests that it looks like, you know, if there are 1.7 billion Muslims on planet Earth now, that must mean that there are another 5 billion human beings at this moment in time that can't pass the test.
Exactly.
You know, so the test, it seems more evil and unrighteous than, if you like, good and beneficial for mankind. If so many human beings are failing it, if so many human beings don't even know why they're taking it, and what is the purpose of the test anyway? Sorry, finished.
Yeah, I'm just reading, Dave. Okay, we are victorious. You're making some excellent points. Okay, can't deny that, because this is exactly what we're trying to do here. Because what you are saying is, if you educate Muslims and you give them the facts, you give them reality, then of course they're going to drop it. Yes, but the thing is, what you're doing at the moment, you are distracting people from the actual topic, because we're trying to read the Quran. And DDS Dave is making an excellent point. If you want to discuss this, and you are making, and I'm going to tell you again, you're making excellent points, because this is the center of the Jinn and Tonic show. What you are telling us here is why we are here. So you are making excellent points, but I'd love you to make this during the after show, or we're going to make this as a major topic in one of the next shows. If you want to come on and do a lecture on this, even if it's just a 10-minute thing, you're welcome, because this is at the core of the Jinn and Tonic show. This is at the core of what we're trying to do. So, yeah. But thanks, but please, we are victorious. If you want to do this as a topic on its own, you're welcome to do so. And if you want to discuss this on the after show and on the Discord, please go and do that, because what you're saying is important, and you're making a very, very good point. Okay? It's just that at the moment, it doesn't make sense to do this, because we're trying to read the Quran. I hope that I'm making myself clear, and I hope that I'm being fair with this. If anybody has any different opinion, let me know, and then I'll just shut up. But this is my opinion that I have at the moment, and that's the way that I see it. If anybody has a different opinion, let me know. Okay. So then it says, they were tested, were shaken up, and even though the messenger then, and those who believed, said, where is God's victory? Now, the funny thing is, God's victory in other translations is being taken as God's guidance. So that is very, I don't know, very different, that the help of God comes along. Let me go look at the root. Let me see what word is being used. Do you think that you will enter paradise? Well, not. I need to go to the end. Allah is near help. So the Nazra is help. In other words, the Quran's usage is help. when will the help of Allah come? So it's Mr. Rashid Khalifa who translated this into victory. So it's actually help. So the messenger and those around him are screaming for help. Where is God's help? And then the Quran says God's help is near. Well, it's not. So God is not telling the truth, because he is saying help is near, and it's not, definitely not. Because you still have just the Quran the way it was written 1,000 years ago. There's a couple of variations, okay, good, but it's not a big deal. So the general ideas, the general message is still the same. It's just not help. So it doesn't matter how many times you were shaken up and those screaming for help. I mean, people, there's a billion people every single day, 5 times a day, saying, please, God, help us. And what does this God do? Zilch, nothing, fago. It's just sitting there and just watching, saying, I don't care. You can call for help, nothing happens.
If anything, you got 1.7 billion human beings praying to this God, or claiming that this God is the truth and is capable of helping. And yet when you look at the world scene, you would have to say the most impoverished of all these people is the Muslim religion. Their Allah has not helped them in any way at all, financially, educationally, socially, economically, intellectually, scientifically, in any sphere of human being achievement or area of where to excel. Islam is lacking in every area. It is not an example at all to follow.
And then what people do, what they resort to, is going on Hajj, running around a black stone, trying to kiss it. Come on, guys. How is that going to give you God's help? Throwing a stone at a rock and then pretending this is Satan. How can you throw a stone at I mean, Satan is not visible. I mean, Satan apparently, according to the Islamic text, is made from fire. So what is the point of throwing a rock into the fire? Nothing.
Well, so, I don't know. In the Hadith, Muhammad was able to grab him one day and tie him to a post. And he must have some kind of physical attributes, because he's capable of urinating in people and hiding in people's noses.
And farting while he's flying. Oh, people, why are you believing this? Come on. Okay. Where is God's help? Where is it? It's not coming. It's never going to arrive. And if you need help, well, actually, yes, you do need help, because this doesn't make sense. But the only help that you're getting is help from other humans, and the intent is not always like good and honest.
But do you not see the pattern here? He's saying that God is near you, God is near you. And when they are struggling, then Muhammad will just say, yeah, but God is testing you, God is testing you.
Exactly.
And then he will turn around and say, yeah, but it's a testimony of your faith, it's a testimony of your faith. And then he'll turn around and say, yeah, but God has chosen you, God has chosen you, you have been guided by Allah. So he's got his get out clauses, or his outs, before he starts telling them Allah is near you, so that he's got his arguments ready for anyone that challenges him. If anybody starts asking questions as to why they're suffering, why Allah isn't answering.
Of course, I mean, he's got all his ducks neatly in a row, of course. So as soon as somebody comes, there you go. He has all the arguments ready for him. Okay, let's do the last one for today. 2:15, they ask you about giving. Say, the charity you give shall go to the parents, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, and the traveling alien. Any good you do, God is fully aware thereof. Alzat. Really. So if charity is to go to the poor, the relatives, the orphans, the parents, travelers, how come a lot of Muslims buy cameras, microphones, and stuff with it?
Well, you better go look at the Dubai and the oil-rich Arab states, and they are a vile example of, if you like, brotherhood, Because if the brotherhood was true, then how can so many millionaires, billionaires, and trillionaires that is from oil, from a land? So by definition, that oil should be the property of every Muslim on that land, not just the few who've decided to harbour the profits just for themselves. It should be state.
Right.
It should be the property of the state for the benefit of those in that state, but it's not. It is being calculatively stolen from the rest of the Muslim family of that state, and the profits have been concealed and kept for themselves. I mean, where is the benefit of Al Mansour buying Manchester City Football Club or any other football club that they're buying and spending their money on, or trying to make the world's biggest buildings in Dubai, or creating islands out of sand to build, £2 million, £3 million homes on? And when you look at the most expensive sports cars in the world, Dubai and the Middle Eastern countries have got to be the main purchasers of these opulent, affluent gifts. So when you're reading scriptures here from the Quran about charity, yet again, it's another example of when you look at the religion, the religion is certainly not an example of charity. Because when you look at this was one day I wanted to do a show, maybe we can discuss it in the future, about when you look at the Western world, or when you look at the world per se, and you look at charity organizations, they're always normally set up by Christians or atheists, never set up for Muslims for the benefit of mankind. You think of like organizations that deal with earthquakes, to get people in there to rescue people. It's not a Muslim organization. They could finance such a group, but they don't. When you think about the Red Cross, when you think about Oxfam, when you think about all these worldwide charities, charities are set up to find cures for diseases or to help alleviate people with diseases. When you look at countries where they have like state education, state welfare systems, these are normally Christian or atheist states that provide this kind of social housing or social healthcare, not Muslim states or Muslim countries.
Well, Muslims help Muslims. I know that this is something I was discussing with Tortoise, because he was with AIRA, which changed into a charity. Before it was, just a Dawah team, and now it's a charity. After they were investigated, they said, well, we provide all this and this and this, and then they publicized it, and it was all Muslim organizations or Muslim groups that they were sponsoring. And then he pointed out one other one, and this was a so-called non-Muslim organization, but it turns out that they were only active in the Middle East. So this was also quite weird, that if you look up carefully, they are in providing only zakat and only providing charity for other Muslims.
Yeah, and that's my point. That was the point I was going to get to, that all the other charities that are set up in the Western world and that are for the benefit of all mankind without any prejudice, whereas the ones that are set up for by Muslims are normally 99% only there for the Muslim, not there for anybody else.
And Doctors Without Borders, for example, they don't go only to non-Muslim countries or something. No, they will go wherever they're needed.
I would say more often than not, when you look at the international charities, they're more often like helping out Muslim countries than they are any other country.
Like in Africa with clean water and things like that, with education, because this is something that shocks a lot of, somebody writes here, it was a jaw drop to learn that Adam died at the age of 930 and that he was 30 meters tall and things like that. Yeah, of course. But the thing is, the complete jaw drop is when I learned that most Muslims are illiterate. And this is also a big thing when most Muslims say, no, this can't be, what are you talking about? And it is true. Okay, I'm talking most Muslims being the majority, being more than 50%. So in other words, we're hitting 55% at the moment. This is a rough estimate, okay? 55%. And because of charities, this is exactly what Thunderous was just saying, because of the charities from the West now going into Muslim countries and providing clean water, providing education, this level is coming up. No, sorry, it's going down. So the illiteracy level is coming down from 55%, and I expect it's going to be hitting 45% by the end of the century, in other words, in the next year or so. So it should be down to 45%, because a lot of people are being taught how to read and how to write, the most basic of the education which they don't have at the moment. Yes, I know it sounds preposterous. More than 50% of Muslims are not able to read and write. Okay, they are illiterate. They don't have even the most basic of education. And this is something that we need to also appreciate. We're always looking at Muslims like I don't know, Ali Dawa, Hijab, Rashid, and those people, even though they're a little bit, okay, I don't want to say dumb or stupid, but they're not that well endowed in the brain section. They do have a basic education. They know how to read and write. I mean, hijab still can't add 2/3 and 1/3, but at least he can read and write, and he knows how to spell Hume or something like this. But the majority of Muslims don't. And this is something that we need to remember all the time. So this is how weak Allah is in the education. Instead of, showering people with signs, he should shower them with education. Okay, is that it for today? Shall I hit us with the hadith of the week?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. This is from Bukhari, volume 1, book 4, number 143, and it was narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, if any one of you having sexual relations with his wife said, and you must say this before starting, okay? In the name of Allah, or Allah protect us from Satan and also protect what you bestow upon us from Satan. And if it is destined that they should have a child, then Satan will never be able to harm that offspring.
How can that reconcile with a test then? If Satan can't,
you can't. But it's a claim. But how can somebody make the claim? If you have, before you have sex, you say, in the name of Allah, protect us from Satan and protect what you bestow upon us, who's going to do that?
But the thing is, I thought a hadith that teaches that the only person in Islamic recension, the only person that wasn't touched by Satan was Jesus. He was the only one that wasn't touched by Satan. So it doesn't matter how many times you pray to your Allah, every child's going to be touched by Satan. He was the only one singled out to have not been touched by Satan. So that's not quite true.
Okay, for me, it's amazing. For me, it's just another way of having yet another link to this God, so that you cannot forget about this God for even a single minute. No matter what you do, everything is somehow linked to that God. This is how a successful cult works. That all the time you are being engulfed. You have this spine, this whole structure. Everything is linked to it. 5 times a day, every couple of hours, you need to get on your knees. In between, you are reminded all the time. If you go to the toilet, if you do anything, if you do this, then use this. If you do this, then use it. And then you must mumble this, and then you must. It's absolutely amazing how well organized this is. But it's also, remember when there was an eclipse, people used to do all sorts of weird things.
Yeah.
Like if you have an eclipse of the sun and then you jump from one foot to the left to the other, so you go left, right, left, right, left, right, and then you say, you see, the quicker I'm doing it, the more the sun's coming back. So I am responsible for the sun coming back. If I wouldn't have jumped from one leg to the other, this sun would have remained where it was. It would have disappeared. But I made it come back by jumping from the left to the right foot. That's how easy it is. And then people become convinced that an action they are taking is actually responsible for something like that. And they are too afraid not to do that. This is the point.
But Mustafa Diane is in the chat. He's saying, I'm a Muslim and I'm struggling to find illiterate Muslims. Even if some of us have never been to school, they will learn English from the Quran translation. Well, how could you read the Quran translation if you haven't read the alphabet or learned the alphabet? No, that'd be like me picking up a language that I cannot read, or I may be able to speak it, but it doesn't mean I can read it. If I just pick up a book in that tongue, and just presume that I can learn the language by looking at the symbols, that's not really a correct statement to make. That people learn English from reading the Quranic translation. What you're basically trying to imply is the Quran is this wonderful book that if you read it, it will teach you another language as well. But you have to know the language to be able to read it. No human being on planet Earth can pick up a book and read it if they don't know the language.
And you cannot learn English from the Quran translation if you don't even have the ability to read the Quran. If you don't know A, B, and C, if you can't distinguish a C from an F, how are you going to learn how to read? You can't, no matter what the language is. And I've made several videos where I show how people in Bangladesh, where the imam knows how to read, and he will take a Quran, he will put it on the stand, and then he will call somebody. And this somebody will then take a reading stick, and while the imam is reciting something, anything, the guy with the reading stick will go along the lines of the Quran as though he were reading, but he doesn't know what he's reading. The letters, the symbols on the page make no sense to him. He's just listening to the incantation of the imam next to him, and he's just moving his stick according to the rhythm of what the imam is reciting. But this does not correspond with what it says in the book because he can't read it.
That's an interesting point you raise there, because when I was being taught the Quran when I was young, you have to learn the Arabic language, because the Arabic language is, the letters are exactly the same as they are in Urdu. The symbols are the same. The Urdu language, I think, has 12 more consonants than the Arabic one. So you're having less consonants or letters to work with, but you have the diacritical marks. I think in Urdu they call it the Zafazir Pesh, which helps you to pronounce what the letter's going to, how to pronounce the letter. So you learn it, but you never learn what the word means. For instance, so I can write the alphabet, I can recite the alphabet, and in some cases I can actually maybe write a word, but I have to know what the word is before I can write it, so then I know what the word means. But when people are learning Arabic, they're not learning what the words mean. They just know how to pronounce that symbol. That's all they do, which is why when you ask a person, can you read the Quran, and they say yes, then you say, okay, then can you translate it for me, please? They say, I can't.
It takes a week to learn the alphabet. Yes, Mustafa, this is not the point. The point is that more than half of the Muslims are never even taught the alphabet. This is the point that Thunders is just making. What you learn is just the sound of everything. You don't learn the alphabet. You don't learn how to write an entire word. You will know that like a little vertical thing and a horizontal and another vertical, that this is a je or something, but you don't learn how to make a word with it. You don't learn the basics of reading and writing. It's just recitation. You just hear the Quran and you can repeat some sentences the way that a child learns a language. But it's not a matter of being able to read or write. You can't do basic arithmetic. That is why the Quran is so successful. It is a recitation propagation. What is a recited propagation? It's not a written propagation. And this is the way that it works, that you don't read it, you actually just listen to it.
And the thing is, you can prove that point with the namaz. People can say the namaz, they say it 5 times a day, 35 times a week. And then you ask them, well, translate it for me, please, whatever you just said, word for word. Or, you know, okay, if you can't transliterate it, translate it then. And they still can't do it. Now, Mustafa Diane said it takes a week to learn the alphabet. I'll give you an example. Oh, guess who is mentioned? Ahmad Deedat. You have to go back to the early 80s to find an example. And then you have to go one of the greatest showmen on earth as they existed as far as Islamic scholars. So one of the most corrupt and deviant debaters of who? I don't know who's ever debated. Gary Swaggart. I think he's the only one that comes to mind.
No, that's not the point. He's talking about English. We're talking about just the basic ability.
I said you don't go to a liar to get truth.
Doesn't matter.
But why he's citing Ahmadiyya?
Yes, but he's making a different point. This is about learning English. Yes,
Yeah.
I can believe that you can learn English. It's like the what is the stone called? Oh fuck.
Ahmadiyya learnt English from an English translation. My statement is, well, who told you that? Oh, Ahmadiyya told you that. And you believe Ahmadiyya? Yeah, Ahmadiyya is a known liar. So
It doesn't matter, Thunderous. Don't get hooked up on Ahmadiyya now. The point is that the literacy rate, the Rosetta Stone, thank you. Jesus, I've got a lot of blocks today. The Rosetta Stone also had 3 different languages, and you were able to gather what the hieroglyphs meant because you knew the other languages. And so you can do this. Yes, you can learn this. But the point of the matter is you need to have a knowledge of the other languages before you can learn another one. So you need the basic ability to read before you can learn from another text. If you don't have the basic ability to read any language because you have never learned how to read any language, you cannot learn another language by reading one language because you don't know how to read. And this is the point. We have a majority of Muslims who don't know how to read or to write the basic stuff, basic arithmetic. They don't know. If you tell them how much is 3 times 3, they will look at you with big eyes. They don't know that because they've never been taught that. So they are lacking the basic education. And because they don't know that, this is the pitiful state of affairs that we have in a lot of Muslim countries. And this is especially with women. Why do you think, geez, I must be getting old. The girl in Pakistan was shot in the head because she was going to school, because she was not supposed to go to school, because the Taliban said, no, women should not have an education. And this is why you have the problem in the north of Africa, where women, 99% of the women in Central Africa, for example, don't know how to read and write. So this is, okay. Okay, guys, that's it. Thank you very much. We'll see each other again next Friday. Dave has put the Discord link on there, so I'll be there for a couple of minutes, maybe half an hour or something. And Malala Yousafzai, there you go. Thank you, Dave. I don't know what's wrong with me today. This is the 3rd thing or something that I did not remember the name, and it's unbelievable. I must be getting old. Or maybe this is the first onset of, I don't know. Yeah. So there you go. And okay, very good point. I need to close on this. Literacy and intellectual capacity are very, very different. They have nothing in common. Okay, you can be an intellectual giant, but you can still be illiterate. So just because you can't read or write does not mean you're stupid, does not mean you're retarded, does not mean you're incapacitated in any way. It just means you've never learned it. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that at the moment, the way things are, that the Muslim community has a deficiency here. So there you go. All right, guys. See you next Friday. Thunderous, thank you very much for joining. Rob, thank you very much for coming on in the beginning. We'll see you next Friday. And enjoy, what is it now? We've done the crucifixion celebration. Next comes the resurrection celebration after 2 days, not 3. So whatever. Okay, guys, see you next week. Ciao.